Hello friends, I'm George, the nice smelling gentleman. Welcome back to the channel guys, I hope that all of you are doing well. We're almost at the midpoint of 2024 and since the beginning of the year, since the start of the year, I've added quite a few Middle Eastern fragrances to my collection. And I'm going to use the opportunity today and probably I'm going to do one more video just to share with you what I consider to be my best Middle Eastern fragrance pickups of 2024 so far. In this video today, I'm going to share with you what I consider to be my best pickups from the houses of Lattafa, Afnan Al Haramain and Paris Corner and a few other fragrance houses in between. I've prepared a list of a total of 20 fragrances, so there are quite a few fragrances to cover today, so that's why I'm going to go quickly over them, and I'm going to try to keep the video as short as possible. And I'm going to start with the house of Lattafa, and I think I have a total of 5 or 6 Lattafas to show you today. The first one that I'm going to show you is called Qaa'ed Intense, and this is one of the latest creations from the house of Lattafa. And this fragrance is a very interesting mix. On one hand you have the DNA of Givenchy Gentleman Reserve Privé, and then on the other hand you have the DNA of Dior Homme Intense. Now this fragrance is predominantly closer to the Givenchy Gentleman Reserve Privé scent. You get that sweet, powdery, slightly nutty, slightly boozy scent profile that has quite a lot of sweetness. But the other way that this feels close to Dior Homme Intense as well is by the fact that it has a pretty strong iris note, and especially in the opening it feels like a mix of almost 50-50 between Dior Homme Intense and Givenchy Gentleman Reserve Privé. I haven't done a full review of this fragrance yet, but so far it seems to be pretty impressive. The scent quality here is very good, the performance seems to be very good, the price tag is pretty low, and all in all this seems like a very interesting creation from the house of Lattafa. The next two fragrances that I'm going to show you from the house of Lattafa, I'm actually going to show them to you, side by side because they're very similar to each other. On one hand I have Lattafa's Vintage Radio, which is part of the Lattafa Pride line, and on the other hand I have the Lattafa Al Nashama. Both fragrances are great clones of Initio's Paragon, and as I said, both of them are very good clones of Paragon. Vintage Radio seems a little bit closer to my nose to the original fragrance, but Al Nashama is also pretty similar to Paragon. Both of them have a very sweet, juicy plum note in them. Both of them have quite a lot of woodsy notes in them as well. But Vintage Radio, to my nose, feels a little bit closer to the original fragrance, feels as though it has slightly better quality and has slightly better performance. But at the same time, it's a little bit more expensive compared to Al Nashama. Al Nashama though, on the other hand, actually again does a very good job at copying the original fragrance. It feels a little bit more fruity to my nose, feels a little bit more unisex, maybe even leaning a little bit to the feminine side, but also has a very good performance and very good quality of the scent itself. Both of them again are very good, and if you can get your hands on one of them, you don't need the other. The next Lattafa that I'm going to show you is again part of the Al Nashama line, but this one is called Al Nashama Caprice, and this one is a clone of YSL's La Nuit de L'Homme Blue Electric. Again, a pretty good clone of La Nuit de L'Homme Blue Electric. Feels a little bit more powdery to my nose compared to the original fragrance. It's not like super close or identical, but definitely carries some of that Blue Electric DNA. The good thing about this fragrance is that it has way better performance compared to the original fragrance, especially when it comes to projection. This fragrance really projects quite a lot harder compared to the original La Nuit de L'Homme Blue Electric. All in all, it has good performance, very good performance for the scent profile, very good projection. It has a very versatile scent profile that can be used all year round. It has a pretty low price tag, and it has been one of my best Lattafa pickups of 2024 so far. The next Lattafa fragrance that I'm going to show you comes from the Mahir line, and it's called Mahir Legacy. The bottle looks like this, and it's an absolute weapon. And this fragrance is a clone of Parfum de Marlis Sedley, and actually surprisingly good clone of Sedley. Not super close to the original scent, but carries a lot of that DNA. It's very fresh, very citrusy, very minty, has a bit of a green touch, some spiciness to it. Also, you get a bit of a smoky vibes as well. A very nice, very sort of easy to wear and very versatile scent profile. The performance at least of my bottle has been surprisingly good considering the light citrusy, fresh fresh scent profile of the whole fragrance, and all in all, it's been a really great find for me when it comes to the house of Lattafa. And the last Lattafa fragrance that I'm going to show you today is one of their rare, unique own creations, not a clone of anything. It's member of the Badi'a Al Oud line of fragrances, and it's called Honor and Glory. And this is a very interesting scent. It has a very interesting pineapple note that feels sweet, and at the same time quite fresh, at least to my nose. It has a very interesting creme brulee note as well in here that adds a sort of a gourmand aspect to the fragrance. It has some ambery sweetness, some vanilla sweetness. You get some cinnamon as well, some sort of mossy vibes out of it. All in all, a very interesting and quite unique scent profile. Very good quality, very good performance, perfectly unisex fragrance that comes in an interestingly packaged. All in all, a great find when it comes to the house of Lattafa. The next fragrance house that I'm going to talk will be the house of Khadlaj. I've added quite a few Khadlaj fragrances to my collection since the beginning of the year. And the first fragrance from this house that I'm going to show you and talk about today is called Epoque Artistique. And this one is a very good quality clone of Paco Rabanne's Invictus Victory Elixir. Very close to the original scent, super high quality, great performance, feels maybe a little bit more woodsy compared to the original scent, but other than that, very close again, and with very nice and respectable performance, very nice projection as well. Comes very nicely packaged. It's a very good fragrance on its own as well. The only problem with this fragrance is that sometimes can be a bit hard to find, but other than that, I've been really impressed by Epoque Artistique from the house of Khadlaj. The next two fragrances from the house of Khadlaj that I'm going to show you today, I've just actually covered them, in a separate review just yesterday. The first one is called Infini, and this one is a very interesting take on the Creed Aventus DNA. This feels a little bit more smoky, a little bit more woodsy in the opening compared to the original fragrance. Lacks a bit of the sweetness in the original, but then on the dry down, it actually becomes sweeter than Creed Aventus, but carries a lot of that very famous DNA. It's actually very nicely done. It's quite a cheap, probably the cheapest Creed Aventus clone in my collection. Has a very respectable performance and all around is a very versatile scent. And the other Khadlaj fragrance that I'm going to show you is called Shiaka Blue, and this is a sort of an original, unique Khadlaj creation. It's a very interesting scent profile. The opening feels somewhat close to Bleu de Chanel with some added sweetness. Then on the mid-dry down, this starts to resemble really strongly something like Jean Paul Gaultier's Scandal Per Homme. It has a lot of that ambery sort of caramel sweetness, and then on the deep dry down, this changes again and becomes a very bluish and very woodsy scent that has a strong shower jelly vibe. Also another very sort of very versatile fragrance, very masculine, very easy to wear, just works all year round and has a pretty low price tag. Next, I'm going to go over a few scents from the house of Paris Corner. I've added quite a few Paris Corner scents to my collection since the beginning of the year, and the first one is part of their North Stack line of fragrances, which is supposedly a higher end line of fragrances, and the fragrance itself is called Dew, or Two in simply said. This is a very good quality clone of Parfum de Marly's Layton. Very similar to the original fragrance, has a bit of a twist in the opening, a bit of a sort of a spicy and green twist in the opening, at least that's how I feel about this fragrance. Then on the dry down becomes very similar to the original fragrance. It's pretty much on par when it comes to performance compared to the original fragrance. Comes very nicely packaged. It has a very interesting looking bottle. The quality here is very good. Both of the bottle, the sprayer, the whole presentation, the box itself, really nicely, impressively done. The second Paris Corner scent that I'm going to show you today is called Rifaq Khat. This one is a clone of YSL Baby Cat. It's another very good quality clone, out of the house of Paris Corner. Feels very similar to the original scent, has a few minor differences, but if you're not familiar with the original fragrance, it's a very dark, very strong, very sweet vanilla-based fragrance that has some smokiness to it and also has a bit of a leather note in it as well, a suede leather note. This differs a little bit compared to the original fragrance, but on its own it has a very good quality. It's a very dark, vanilla based fragrance. Performance here, at least in my experience, has been very good. It's a perfectly unisex scent. It has a very competitive price tag. All in all, a very decent alternative for something like YSL Baby Cat. And the last Paris Corner scent that I'm going to show is probably at the current time my most favorite scent out of that house, and it's called Qaa'ed. And I really like this fragrance. It's a very unique scent. It has lots of leather, lots of fruity sweetness, lots of ambery sweetness. There is some spiciness in here as well. All in all, a very interesting creation. The opening feels a little bit fresh and slightly sweet, and then the dry down is a very nice mix of the leather and the amber note, with again some of that fruity sweetness somewhere in the background. I really like this one. Very strong performance, very strong projection. To my nose, again, another perfectly unisex scent that has been really impressive, and I'm really glad that I found this fragrance. The next one that I'm going to show you will be from the house of Maison Asrar, and the fragrance itself is called Oud Intense. This one is a very good clone of Dior Homme Intense. Has a bit of a twist, a bit of an woodsy twist, as you can probably guess by the name itself. Other than that though, very similar to the original fragrance. You get lots of that powdery makeup-y iris, you get lots of that musk that you get out of the original, a hint of pure sweetness as well. Very good quality clone of Dior Homme Intense with slightly more woodsy notes mixed in here as well, maybe giving this DNA, this scent, a little bit more of a masculine feel compared to what some people consider to be almost unisex scent of the original Dior Homme Intense. Dior Homme Intense is one of my most favorite fragrances, and Oud Intense from Maison Asrar actually turned out to be a very good quality clone of Dior Homme Intense. Performance is good, projection is good. The next sort of a standalone fragrance that I'm going to show you comes from the house of Sapil, and it's called Bound for Men. It comes in this very cheap looking, very cheap feeling bottle. The whole fragrance is, super cheap. It costs like 10-12 euros here in Europe. But the scent inside is actually a very nice or surprisingly good clone of Armani's called Profumo. I just can't believe, how good of a scent this is for that super low price tag. Performance is great, projection is great, the performance is pretty much on par with the original fragrance, and this costs about a tenth of the price of the original, or somewhere thereabout. A absolutely fantastic, cheap fragrance, one of the best ultra cheap fragrances in my collection. The next fragrance house that I'm going to cover will be one of my most favorite Middle Eastern fragrance houses, and that's the house of Afnan. The first fragrance that I'm going to show you is called Rare Carbon, and this one is probably one of the most famous clones of Tom Ford's Ombre Leather. It's very nicely done. Like any other Afnan fragrance, it has a very nice quality. It has a slight twist compared to the original scent. This feels a little bit more fruity and also feels a little bit greener. There's some greener aspects in this fragrance that the original doesn't have. But apart from that, it's very similar to the original scent. Performance is very good, projection is very good, price tag is a little bit higher than some other Middle Eastern fragrances, but that's the same, the same can be said for all Afnan fragrances, but they have a very nice quality, at least in my experience. The second Afnan fragrance that I'm going to show you today is called Tobacco Rush. And this one is a very interesting, again, not a straight up clone, more like a twist on the original original niche fragrance. The original fragrance is called Red Tobacco. It comes from the house of Mansera, and this carries a lot of that DNA. You get, but here you get, some twists, some minor twists that actually are making this fragrance way more masculine compared to the original fragrance. This has a very strong tobacco note and also has a very strong leather note. You still get some of the spiciness and some of the sweetness like you get with the original fragrance, but the sweetness here is toned down, and the tobacco and the leather notes are very amped up, and this is a very rough, very masculine scent, and I absolutely love it. It has a beast mode performance, it has beast mode projection, has a super strong magnetic cap, and I really like this one. And the only problem I have with this fragrance is the 80 ml bottle size, but with such performance that you get out of it, you don't really need that much juice. And the last Afnan fragrance that I'm going to show in this video today comes from the Supremacy line, and it's called Supremacy in Oud. This one is a very good sort of a clone slash twist on an original fragrance from the house of Initio, which is called Oud for Greatness. It carries again a lot of that very same DNA, but here you have a few minor twists, and the twists here are the fact that this fragrance just feels sweeter. It has some added ambery and fruity sweetness on the original, DNA. The original DNA is very spicy, very woodsy, and very woody as well. But and to my nose and in my experience, it's never been a very, you know, a favorite of mine. I didn't ever find it to be a very wearable fragrance for me, but the amount of sweetness, fruity and ambery sweetness that Afnan have added in the supremacy in oud fragrance have actually made the whole DNA scent DNA a lot more wearable for me personally, and for that reason alone I consider this to be a great find for me. And I just wanted to add one more standalone fragrance. It comes from the house of Ahmed Al Maghribi, and the fragrance is called simply Leather. It comes in this very cute 50 ml bottle size bottle, and this fragrance is an absolutely fantastic clone of Tom Ford's Tuscan Leather. You get a very similar DNA, you know, lots of a strong high quality leather note with some, you know, fruity and ambery sweetness, you know, some spices and woodsy notes, very close to the original fragrance. It has a very high concentration of fragrance oil inside. It has beast mode performance, beast mode longevity. It's not super strong when it comes to projection, but the quality here is absolutely fantastic, and I really like the way that this bottle looks. And I'm going to finish off the video with two fragrances from the house of Al Haramain. The first one is called Asrar Oud Blue Edition. Comes in this really interesting looking bottle. It has a very strong magnetic cap, and this fragrance is probably the highest quality clone of Dior Sauvage Elixir that I've tried up to date. Very close to the original scent, feels slightly less spicy, just a hint less spicy compared to the original scent. It comes super luxuriously packaged, very high quality, you know, the bottle of the packaging. Again, magnetic cap. You get a fantastic sprayer that feels as good as the original fragrance. The performance here is very strong. Initially, when I first got this fragrance, it wasn't I wasn't getting the good performance that I was expecting out of this fragrance, but with about a month of maceration, things have suddenly changed, and this actually became almost a beast mode performing scent. And the last fragrance featured in today's video, and the second Al Haramain scent that I'm going to show, will be Junon Oud. And this one is a very high quality clone of Sospiro's Vibrato. It has a very interesting, very fresh scent profile that also has quite a lot of woodiness and quite a lot of darkness to it. Very good performance for a freshie, very good projection, again very luxuriously packaged, super high quality, as with almost any other Al Haramain fragrances. You know, Al Haramain, I've always thought of Al Haramain as a very high quality, you know, fragrance house out of the Middle East. Very likable scent profile, very easy to wear, very versatile, and again a little bit more expensive compared to some other clones, but I think the price tag is worth it because of what you get in return. I've been really impressed with the Junon Oud from Al Haramain. The last fragrance featured today, Al Haramain's Junon Oud. So guys, in today's video I tried to quickly go over 20 of my best pickups so far in 2024. Today I covered the houses of Lattafa, Afnan, Al Haramain and Paris Corner with a few additional scents. I hope that you found this video interesting and not too long, and I also hope that you're going to join me in the next one. And until then, stay safe and bye bye.